Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're taking our second look through my collection of TV and film tie-ins and adaptations. Really excited to go through these. Lots I haven't seen for quite some time, and I think you're going to enjoy looking through them as well. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay then, so we start off with one of my absolute all-time favourite movie tie-ins. The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, Joe Millard. Really love this one. It's the British Tandem edition, late 60s. Just a great tie-in. I love it. Yeah, 1967. It's just everything about it is brilliant. The only thing missing is maybe a photo insert. That would have just been then perfection. But this one actually seemed really quite nice condition as well. There's a whole string of sort of man with no name novels, of which I've got a handful, but nowhere near enough to warrant a video just yet, but it's something I'm working on. Human Jungle, this is a British series starring Herbert Lom. Might recognise him from the Pink Panther movies, amongst many other things actually. He's in loads of things, wasn't he? Turn to a page there. I think the last thing I saw him in was that great black and white British movie Hell Drivers. He's in that. This is the movie tie-in to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I have actually got, but I think it's the American first, I think, of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the Jack Finney one. It might actually be a British one, published by Beacon. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this was a great film, and I never saw it when it came out. I was a bit too young, but I saw it just a few years later, and it was quite sort of haunting. I think it was this and Mission Impossible was one of the first things I saw Leonard Nimoy outside of Star Trek. But it's a good one. It's a good film, that, and got the photo novel to it as well. The Invaders. Absolutely love this series. When it was repeated in the UK on BBC Two, probably in the, I don't know, was it mid 80s? Just loved it. They showed the whole run as far as I can remember. And it sort of got cut short, didn't it, in the middle of the second season. It never quite got resolved, which was a shame. It would have been nice to have wrapped it up, but they did do like a one-off TV revival in the 90s with Roy Thinnes, which I've got on American video, but I've never actually seen it. So I must see how that holds up. That had a little like price inside, and it's actually come off really well. I must have just been in pencil, so that's okay. These are the British ones, and this is an American one, Pyramid, Keith Lauer. And there isn't a lot of merchandise or memorabilia for the Invaders. There's a little hardback, which we'll get to see eventually when I do my movie and TV hardbacks. I think there's a few Dutch trading cards, like about 5, which were part of another set which I've got. There was the Aurora model kit of the UFO. This is British again, Corgi, but very little really. I think there may have been two Invaders hardbacks as Whitman TV books, of which I've got the US ones, and I've got one in Dutch as well. What a good series it was. I must rewatch this at some point. Automix Celebrity. Of course, there was 4 Gold Key comics, I remember now, and I've got those as well. But not a lot of Invaders stuff, but a very memorable series all the same. Maybe that was one of the reasons why it got cancelled, because there just wasn't a lot of tie-in memorabilia. There wasn't a board game or anything. There's a few little splashes of something on the front there. So when we get to the polishing stage, we'll take a look at that. Meteor Man, that's okay. This is another real favourite of mine. This is the movie tie-in to the Ipcress File, a very young Michael Caine there, and published as a Panther crime band. Now, I have shown my Panther books on my other, in fact we did it on this channel, didn't we? We did cleaned my Panther books just a few weeks ago, and there was a few Panther crime bands in there. I honestly don't know, and I'm very curious to know is there a list of all the books that came out in this Crime Band imprint? Because I don't think it was around very long. Maybe just 18 months, something like that, if that. This one's dated 66, which will be tie-in with around that sort of period for this Panther Crime Band. But very nice, nice TV movie tie-in rather to that one. Really of its time. Another favourite of mine, Making the Jewels. It's fantastic, but there's really, really interesting as well. Superb. This is, I think, it's an American import with a 60p sticker over it. Look at this, packed with photos. It's quite collectible, this one, from what I understand. I think there's even a Making of Jewels 2 as well, but how amazing is this? Really gets you back into the movie, doesn't it? Good stuff. Very, very good indeed. There we go. This is an interesting movie, wasn't it? Life Force. Colin Wilson. Yeah, filmed as... It was, the book was Space Vampires, wasn't it? Yeah, quite a movie. She spends most of the time literally walking around the entire film half naked. Logan's Run. This was a huge deal in its day, but of course sort of showing its age a bit now. Yeah, Michael York, Jenny Agutter. I'm actually quite surprised this is quite a rough old copy of this one for a book that back in the day was incredibly common. You'd see it everywhere. So my copy's not exactly setting the world on fire here, but I suppose it'll do. It's not too bad. And I've got a couple of spin-offs as well. At Logan's World. Sticker mark there. Some of these I've had for a long, long time. So I really don't know the sort of condition of some of these. It's got a little 50p in the corner, but it's in pens, so I'm not going to be able to do much about that. And there's one more book in my Logan's collection, Logan's Search. Now this looks like an American, it's William F. Nolan, it's an American one, so I'm not sure if this had British distribution. I thought all mine were British, so there you go. There's the 3. I don't think there's more than 3. 1980. Bantam. There you go. Well, I think what we'll do now, we'll just give these a bit of a brush off, as is tradition, because they didn't need too much work, did they? Just the odd price rubbing out, which isn't too strenuous. Too bad dust-wise, but as I said in the last video, the sort of TV and film tie-ins were amongst the earliest sorts of vintage paperbacks I collected when I was a kid, and I've never really sort of stopped, although I don't buy anything like the amount that I used to, but most of the ones I really want I've got. There's a few like 60s ones still I wouldn't mind getting my hands on, like those Danger Man ones, although they shouldn't be too difficult to find with a bit of perseverance. And the American Avengers ones I'd like to get. And that's that first pile done. Another one of my absolute all-time favourite tie-ins for the Italian Job. I'm guessing this is probably quite collectible as well. Another Michael Caine one. Great film, isn't it? Absolutely great film. I actually had a classic mini for a few years, and when I picked it up on the iPod, which I plugged into the stereo, gives you an idea how long ago it was, the first song I played was the theme to the Italian Job, Get a Bloomin' Move On, as I was driving away in my new mini. There we are. Lovely, that one. Really nice. MASH. I'd like to track down the rest of the MASH because I absolutely love the series, and the books basically concentrate on the MASH cast who we're familiar with going off into other locations, which they couldn't really do so easily in the TV series, but I really do love them. I've never really researched into how many there are, but I think quite a few. I've got 5 in my collection. So that was MASH Goes to New Orleans. This is MASH Goes to Moscow. And these were big sellers back in the day. The TV series was riding high. I mean, that had, 12 seasons, I think, for MASH, plus the movie, of course. So it was on TV all the time. And I certainly loved it, and love it to this day. Absolutely love MASH. There is a fantastic MASH dossier, which is like a guide to the series. Big old coffee table book published in the UK by Virgin, which I highly recommend. Well, look, there we are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 10 there. So I've only got half at the very best. MASH Goes to Texas. This is MASH Goes to Hollywood. I can't imagine these are difficult to find or even very expensive to pick up. But certainly they're on my radar as ones, get it? On my radar as ones to pick up. There we are. So, as far as I can see, there's at least 10 in that series, but I'm sure there could easily be twice that, you know. Next, we start quite a run of Man from U.N.C.L.E. So, apologies if you're not really into the Man from U.N.C.L.E., but these were part and parcel of collecting paperbacks when I was growing up, and I still really love collecting them to this day. I've got all the British ones, but I'm missing a fair few American ones. Now, a lot of my collection, luckily, were signed by Robert Vaughan. So when Robert Vaughan came over to the UK in the 90s, he did a little tour for a week. He did a couple of personal appearances, like an evening with Robert Vaughan. But he also appeared on The Big Breakfast, which is like a morning TV show at the time, and a couple of other things when he was being interviewed. And the person who brought him over, a friend of mine called Larry, he at the time I had my shop, and he said, look, have you got any Man from U.N.C.L.E. stuff, any old 60s memorabilia? And I said, well, yeah, personally I had the trading cards, and I had I said I got a load of the paperbacks. I haven't got them all, but I got most of them. And he said, yeah, well, anything you can get. And in the shop we also had a couple of Man from U.N.C.L.E. dolls. We had some of the I had my own annuals as well, the British annuals, and the books. And over the course of the week leading up to the NEC show, where he signed for the general public at the weekend, every time there was a break, Larry got Robert Vaughan to sign a few of these in my collection. So that's how the majority of mine got signed. So thankfully I didn't have to pay for them or anything. They were just done during the week he was over, which was really, really lucky. So an awful lot of my uncle's stuff is signed. He would, generally speaking, only sign stuff with him on the front. Obviously he wouldn't sign a book which had David McCallum, because I guess that didn't sort of make sense. But I think there's a couple of odd exceptions. And I know my business partner at the time, George, he got a lot of his signed as well. So we both benefited from that. And then we actually saw him a few days later that week. But it was nice seeing our toys on display on the Big Breakfast TV show. That clip probably exists online somewhere. I must have a little look for that. Here's at number 3, once again, Robert Vaughan. So some of these I would have, if they weren't signed, I would have probably upgraded them over the years, but since these are signed ones, there's no way to get these back again. I'm never going to do it. Now, this is quite interesting. So you see this one here has got a little J inside. So that was when we sent the load of merchandise away for the tour. I've got mine J for Jules, and my business partner was called George, and he put a G inside his. So when the books came back, we knew whose copy was what, whose was whose, you know, which is pretty cool. Also got some bullet pieces signed by him as well, which is pretty nice. So number 4. Another one with a little J inside, and all that little J refers back to that time in the 90s. I think it was like the mid-90s, something like that. Apparently the talks were absolutely amazing, because you can imagine the people Robert Vaughan have met over the years, and he was next door neighbours to Steve McQueen. Just incredible, you know. So this is another version of number 4, both listed as first editions, but one's with photos on the inside and one isn't. So it's just like a little variation, really. But yeah, and in their heyday, the two men from Uncle, Vaughan and McCallum, were almost as big as the Beatles. They had massive crowds turn up for them at the airports when they landed. They really were big names, and it's difficult to believe that today, but they really were. It's funny, but unfortunately the Man from U.N.C.L.E. hasn't held up that well as a TV show today. It hasn't got the same sort of cult status, particularly in the UK it hasn't. So although we had 17 books in actual fact, because we had the ABC of Espionage and we had the annuals over here, so it was popular in Britain during the spy boom of the 60s with James Bond and what have you. That popularity has waned of late because it's never really shown on TV. It's not really garnering new fans, and there's been no real new Uncle revival. And there's been that sort of film a few years back, but that didn't do anything, did it, unfortunately? So that is basically it. There was talk at one point of Tarantino having the rights to do an Uncle film. He was obviously a fan, but it never happened. This is just a variation in number 6 with and without photos. 49p. These are all my original prices from back in the day. I'm very glad to be lifting these up as we go along. I think what we'll do is give these a brush off now. I'm going to have to be very, very careful when I get to the polishing stage. Probably won't bother on the signed ones, to be honest. I don't want to risk anything. They just remain as they are. Plume coming off there, a plume of dust. Lovely. Let's just crack on. Man from U.N.C.L.E. 7. The Radioactive Camel affair. And I did at 20p, so I did read these back in the day when I was picking them up, but I couldn't tell any of the plots to any of them at all. They're long since lost to memory. But that is typical, seeing like a little 20 pence inside. Absolutely typical of when these books were around. For some reason, I think it was the earlier numbers that were much more common, and it was always numbers 15 and 16. I think that were the toughest ones to find in Britain, and certainly I think I don't think they are so much now. You're not going to pay much more, I don't think, than a tenner even for number 16, which used to be very, very tough. You'd see copies for like £25, but not anymore. The internet has sort of leveled prices out, or eBay rather, leveled prices out on some of these books because you realise that they were just so common. They're just not worth the money that was being asked. However, something like the Champions book that we mentioned last week, where copies are going for £80 plus, maybe that's proved to be much scarcer than people thought, and the internet has realised that, with the amount of copies turning up on places like eBay, and the price has changed accordingly. All these 20p's here, look at this. Of course, the last thing Robert Vaughan did, wasn't it, was Hustle Hustle, which Albert Stroller he played, and he was in the series for quite some time, and I think it was a great character, really, really good. But I think that was his last great role. Evidently liked being in the UK, and you can imagine if you worked on that series, the stories he must have told, day in, day out on the set. Absolutely phenomenal. So it's got quite a few turned over pages that need sorting out. But these Uncle books are quite a nice colourful series to collect, and if you are at all interested in the 60s spy genre, they are an essential really, alongside the James Bond books and Danger Man and what have you, Prisoner. And yet another 20p. I did alright getting these back in the day, didn't I? At 20 pence a pop. I know even when we had the shop in the 90s, we only used to knock these out about £2-3.99. They weren't expensive at all. And even today, you can pick up little piles of them online, pretty reasonably priced. And number 11 there, The Thinking Machine Affair. Slightly damaged pages, but nothing to really worry about. Number 11, Monster Wheel Affair. £2 in this one. There we are. Corfu Affair. Little Jane. Nice. 14, Splintered Sunglasses Affair. Wrong with a little Jane. This is the first of the slightly scarcer ones, number 15. And then the last one is number 6. That's a nice copy of that one. The last one is number 16, which is apparently pretty rare. At least it used to be, But what a colourful old set they make these, don't they? That's number 16. The Unfair Fair Affair. You could say it was the rare Unfair Fair Affair. 40p, that's what mine cost me. 40p is twice the cost of some of the others. But as I said, I don't think, even though this is supposed to be rare, I don't think it's like mega money anymore. But I haven't looked any of the Uncle books up. I'm sure they're cheap and cheerful these days. But I think the American ones are quite tough to find in Britain in nice nick at a reasonable price. But once again, I've never really tried. I've picked a few odd ones up here and there over the last few years, like an odd one here for like £2-3. But generally speaking, if they're more than like a £5, I'm not too bothered really. Although it would be nice to say I got all the American ones as well. So 4 of the books were re-released in the UK by Box Tree, and actually this is signed again, so these must have been sent up at that time. So these were bought brand new, but you know, they've aged a little bit. I guess they weren't printed on the greatest of paper. And these published in the 90s, wasn't it? 1993. Blimey. As I said, I think he came over about 95, 96, but I could be wrong, to be honest. I can't really remember. Yeah, I'll give these a careful wipe just to tidy them up a little bit, and very much avoid the signatures on the front. Yeah, so interestingly, he signed all three, but he wouldn't sign this one because, of course, it's got McCallum on. Fair enough, I suppose. There we are. So let's give them a brush down. A few of these are going to need a bit of a tactical bit of Mr. Sheen on. Not too bad, but just a little bit, just to freshen up a couple of sticker marks and stuff. But on the whole, once again, so far these aren't too bad, all things considered, considering how long I've had them. Mainly, as you can see, they've all got the original prices on, which means that they've never been through my cleaning process since I had them. But that's why, that's why we're doing it and filming the process as we go along. It's a really good record of my collection as well. So even if I sell these in the future down the line, because I can't keep it forever, at least I'll have a permanent video record of what was actually in the collection in 2022 as I film this today. Cool. Well, although we've done a lot of Man from Uncle, there is yet more because we've got to do the American editions. So let's get them out now. The American one, number 2, they've got a big number in there, and these are published by Ace. Bit of a different cover design, and much harder to find in Britain. Like I would imagine the British ones are much harder to find in America. But they're quite fun, and some of them turned up over here. I haven't bought any from America. These are all ones that have been found in the UK, so they were definitely imported. And I don't really remember buying any off other collectors, but in the days of the shop. But I don't know. Here's an odd one signed. So this is one I must have had back in the mid-90s. Got a bit of tape residue up there. I'm not sure if it was sticker residue. That's got a little J inside. Not sure if I'm going to be able to clean that up very well, but I'll have a little go. It's obviously an earlier one because it's got a big crease on the front there, but I'm never going to get rid of it because it is a signed one, Number 5, also signed. Number 7. Didn't realise so many of my American ones were signed as well. But I'm not going to complain. Wow, number 9. And once again, I think with the American ones, the later in the series you go, and they went past, I don't know, they were in the 20s, weren't they? But the later you go, the harder they get, I believe. Cool picture of Robert Vaughan on the back there. There we are, on a little something in the side there, but we've got it out. Invisibility affair. The Mind Twisters affair. So it's quite worn down the bottom corner there, unfortunately. So again, it's one I've had a long time because it's got a little J inside. Now, this particular video today, I'm having to film in 2 parts. So I'll be pausing shortly because, alas, I've got a dental appointment. And they're like hen's teeth, if you'll excuse the expression in the UK at the moment. We've got a real shortage of dentists. So I've been waiting months for this. So it is my day off, but I'm filming. It's going to be interrupted so that I can go to see the dentist. Now, hopefully, I'm going to be able to come back and continue filming. But if the second half of this video is completely silent and you just see me working with no volume, then you know it did not go well. However, I'm hoping it all will be fine. I'm not in any pain. It's just like a sort of a check-up and a clean and scrape, as they were, a bit of a trip to the hygienist. So nothing too dramatic happening. Thank goodness. Let's do this. This is the very last one, number 21, Thinking Machine Affair. What a run of Man for Uncle. As I said, it's a sort of a lifetime collection, really. It's started picking them up when I was at school, so 35 years plus ago. More like 40 years ago. And they've been in the collection ever since. There we are. So we'll give the rest of these Uncle books a brush off. And then I shall take a half-time pause. Felt like that was really quite satisfying, giving those particular books a brush off there, and they felt like they really needed it. They all probably need it, really, but and some of these are going to be great once I've been able to get them rubbed and get bits of sticky labels and stuff up. I think they're going to come out really, really nicely. So these are one area of my collection that are really benefiting from me going through and giving them a really good clean. Right, I'm just going to pause there. Back after I've seen the dentist. Okay, I made it back in one piece, thankfully, and we're going to finish off these last few books now. So this one is Marnie, which was an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Not one of my favourites, but it did star Sean Connery and Tippi Hedren. I was given this one by a friend fairly recently, so I've not had a chance to sort of go through it, but he knew I collected movie tie-ins. And it's one I'd never really seen before, ever. It's a very nice, got the nice Hitchcock silhouette there. That's cool. Now, these couple are, they're in my TV and movie bit. It is by Michael Avallone, author of Boris Karloff's Tales of the Frightened. So it's got a prominent and prolific TV tie-in author at the helm here, but it's just A bit like a precursor to Famous Monsters of Filmland, that sort of thing, the magazine. It's just taking little bits from the old Universal Horrors, basically. I didn't really know where to put that in. I suppose it could have gone with my sort of comic strip books, I suppose. Here's a very, very similar one, similar vein. Monsters, Maidens and Mayhem. Same author. It was for that fascination with people had with those classic Universal Horrors. And they're still quite fun to this day, aren't they? Yeah, both 1965, those. Not sure where else to put those, to be honest. Midnight Cowboy. Not a film I've seen in many a year, but I remember enjoying it last time I did watch it. There's John Voight there and Dustin Hoffman. Panther title there. Got that great title song, wasn't it, by Nielsen, Everyone's Talking. Everybody's Talking. And John Voight is the father of Angelina Jolie. I don't know if you knew that. Mission Impossible. One of my favourite series. Absolutely love Mission Impossible. I've watched every episode at least 3 times. Just love it. Enjoy the movies as well, the Tom Cruise films. But the 60s series, excellent. My favourite of all was one called The Bunker, which was this was the first time I ever remember seeing this sort of story. It was a 2-parter, and the Mission Impossible gang had got this guy into a mock nuclear bunker, and they pretended that it was the world had been destroyed, so he could look out through these windows and all he could see was this like desolate landscape, and everyone was acting up like as if the world had been blown to bits, just to get this guy to reveal his secrets. Absolutely classic Mission Impossible. So if you ever want one to watch, if you're at a loose end and you've got them on tap, The Bunker 2-part, it's just great. That's my all-time favourite one. The other one is a really early one. I think it's a season 1 or 2 one called A Game of Chess. That's another really, really excellent one. Mission Impossible 3 here, Codename Rapier. Fantastic. Really, really good. Peter Graves there. So I had a friend of mine who got very friendly. This is back in the 90s. He got very friendly with Hazel Court, who'd appeared in a lot of classic stuff over the years, including some Hammer movies. And he got so friendly with her. She invited him over to stay with him for a couple of days in Hollywood, which he did. And he was having breakfast one day, and who should just stroll in with a tray of eggs for her? He said, Hazel? He said, yeah, over here. It was Peter Graves. Can you believe it, eh? He said he had a bit of a shock when he saw Peter Graves walk through the door. And there's book 4, Little Ivan. And of course I did pick up the tie-in to the very first film when that came out, and that was some time ago now, wasn't it? Let's have a look when this came out. 1996. Wowee. Was it that long ago? 26 years ago. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Anyway, I never got around to reading that, but it's a nice mint copy of the book of the first film. Speaking of Hammer, here is a Hammer tie-in. Moon 02. It's their one and only excursion into space. And I guess they released this on the back of, 2001 maybe, the popularity of that. What else was around this sort of time? Was it 69? Yeah, it would have been on the back of, say, 2001. Pretty cool. So that was the British one, and I have got the American, which I think is much scarcer, tie into Moon 02. Published by Signet over there. Warren Mitchell, I didn't know he was in it. It's one I'm rewatching he's done a mock signature. I'm rewatching the Hammer films and following them with the Hammer House of Podcast, which is like a watch-along podcast. And I haven't got as far as Moon 02 yet. Betty Davis stars in the Hammer film The Nanny. Evelyn Piper, so another Hammer tie-in. This is a Fontana. Not in the greatest of shape, but I believe this is quite a scarce one to get your hands on. It's one I've had for ages. I've been trying to pick up all the Hammer tie-ins. I've got most of them. There's just a couple of the mid-70s ones that are supremely scarce, which I'm missing. But I've got most of them, and I will have some of those to show you. Doesn't look like they're going to be this time, but maybe in the next one we might be that far into the alphabet. Here's another really offbeat one. It was an ABC TV show. They Came from the Sea, The New People. Now, I don't remember ever seeing The New People, but it looks very hip and happening, doesn't it? Very hip and happening. So it's quite an obscure one, this. Tempo Books, 1969. There we are, September 69. If anyone can tell me anything about that, do let me know. We've got very knowledgeable viewers of this channel. It's fantastic. Some of the comments are just incredible. They're encyclopedic, so thank you very much if you do leave a comment. This was pretty good. This was a 6-parter, The Nightmare Man, which I remember being absolutely terrified by when it first went out. I have a funny feeling it was done either by like BBC Scotland or BBC Southwest. And it was on pretty late at night, I seem to recall. But there we are. I wouldn't mind seeing that again. Here's another one which I don't really know quite where to put it. It's in my vintage paperback collection. It's the Pocket Playboy. I think it's sort of like a slimmed down version of the magazine, but without sort of the topless models. Yeah, some of the better essays and things of that from the period. This was a huge series. It went for loads. This is the only one I've got, but there was a lot of them. I got this because a really nice sort of 60s feel to it. And then the last little stretch here is Porridge. So probably my all-time favourite BBC sitcom, and I wish they'd made more of them, to be honest. Absolutely love it. And these are basically the books of the scripts and the book of the film as well. And then they did a little spin-off called Going Straight. So these are my Porridge books. This is a reprint. I have got at least one of these in hardback. And I've also got one by Richard Beckinsale, which is like a Porridge tie. It's like a poems or something like that. Another stretch of Porridge. I guess this would have been season 2 of the TV show. Yeah, these are all the with the Christmas special at the end. It's been a while since I've watched Porridge. What a great show that is. Recently, the BBC Archive channel here on YouTube, they published a behind the scenes where Blue Peter, John Noakes and Shep, the dog, visited Porridge being filmed. Never, ever seen any behind the scenes footage of Porridge, and it was absolutely fantastic to see. So I urge you to go and have a look. It's about 10 minutes of behind the scenes footage. It's fantastic, really, really good. Everyone, the cast, they're all interviewed, the crew, and they take them into different cells for the interview. But it was amazing to think that the actual prison itself was a set. It was a studio that they'd done up like the inside of a prison. So convincing. I mean, it really was fantastic. There's the last series, A Further Stir of Porridge. Then we had Porridge, The Inside Story. This was the book of the film. They went back and sort of redid it again with some of the best cast members and fellow inmates. It's not bad. It's got a youngish Gordon Kay from Hello Hello fame is in the Porridge film. He's like driving the coach that they all smuggle themselves out. And then eventually when Porridge finished, they did do a follow-up series with Fletcher Outside called Going Straight, which only ran for one series, but it wasn't bad. Had some of the cast from the original series return in it, which was pretty good. Fulton Mackay was in it. Obviously, Richard Beckinsale and the woman who played Richard Beckinsale's daughter, who died recently. A few other familiar faces you would see. But that's the last one, so we're still only up to P in the tie-in collection. So there's going to be probably another two videos yet, I'm afraid, with these, but I'm sure you're not going to mind. And let's give these bad boys a brush down. I've got to dig out my Star Trek ones, and I'll incorporate those when I do. They're separate at the moment. It's sort of my Star Wars collection, so I'll bring those in because they've not been cleaned properly, and they're once again some of those are amongst my very oldest movie tie-in paperbacks. The Star Treks, they're such a big deal, and there's so many of them. They're going to be the subject of their own couple of part video, as is going to be the Doctor Who's. There's just so many to get through, the Target books and what have you. So cool, a bit of dust coming off one or two of them, but that's good. I think it was the nanny what was looking a bit rough. Looking at that one there, needs the tiniest, and I mean the tiniest little bit of glue in the top of the spine. So you might as well do it since the rest of them are looking so nice. Just the tiniest little bit of Pritt stick. And you'll see there where it's just come away at the top there. So just going to pop a little bit of blue Pritt stick in there. Squish it in. There we are, fold it down, remove the excess, there we are. That'll just stop it getting any worse. There we are. But on the whole, very little repair work needed this time. It was just the odd, well, more than the odd price 20p and what have you to rub out. Nice and simple today. Brilliant. Right, so that's them all cleaned. Now we need to start the polishing process. Right then, so I've got a nice new bit of cloth, my soft cloth here, and I've got my can of Mr. Sheen primed and ready. And as traditional, I'm going to get one corner damp. And we're going to see how we get on. Now, some of these are by far worse than others. Some of them are absolutely fine. So it's going to be a bit of a mishmash today, but we'll see how we get on. This one was one of the ones that was pretty good. This one had a bit of invisible dirt on, definitely. This yellow is another colour that picks up the dirt quite a bit, quite easily. Look at that, 4 books. It's already quite dirty. Just shows, doesn't it? trying to remember the ones which had little bits and pieces that needed a bit of extra attention. Most of it's obvious, of course, you can sort of see, but I would be really interested. People, when in the comments, they do leave little comments about how they've managed to clean up some of their stuff, and that does make me smile. Because, I mean, what we're doing is not rocket science, but it is incredibly satisfying, and it does make your books look so much better on the shelf. And next time you go to pick it up, you're going to know that, you know, you've cleaned it to the best of your ability, you know? And not just that, it is quite a relaxing thing to do, isn't it? I find it's very therapeutic to clean a few, you know, doing an hour or two's worth of cleaning of books a week. My collection slowly but surely is getting better and making nice new videos for yourself. And I certainly enjoy filming these videos for you, and I love the way the books improve. Even by just doing an hour or two of cleaning a week, it really does make all the difference when you're cleaning your collection. A few little marks and fingerprints on, which thankfully are coming up lovely now that we've got the polish on it. Bit annoying, it's got that 50p on the bottom there. It's kind of, I've faded it a little bit by rubbing it with the polish, but I'm not going to get it off completely, unfortunately. That one, it's too far ingrained. It's certainly faded it a little bit there. Quite a bit coming off the spine of that one. Makes me suspect it was in the home of a smoker, maybe, with the telltale nicotine stain coming off. That's pretty nice. Fairly slow going today on these. It's not a job that can be rushed. And why would you want to rush it anyway when we're looking at super cool books such as this? Definitely some yellow in the spine here, but apart from that, it's a really nice copy. Probably quite a collectible one. Now onto the MASH books. Now these needed a little bit of a once over, didn't they? This one's definitely got some aging on it. I suppose when you think it is almost 50 years old now, which is mental when you think about it. Absolutely crazy. It's got quite a grubby back, but unfortunately these back covers, or the covers to these MASH books, aren't that glossy, so there's a limit to how much actually comes off, and you can't overcook it with the polish because it will wreck the covers. Sadly, these are about as good as they're going to get. Right, now I need to carefully start on these Man from Uncle's. Now the signed ones, I'm just going to be very selective about where I actually do any cleaning, because these have never been cleaned. I'm just going to avoid the signature completely and just give them the once over. There's Michael Avalone. Now if you don't know already, Michael's son, David Avalone, actually has a YouTube channel. It's called Pulp Today. So He doesn't publish lots of videos, it's like once in a blue moon, but there's quite a nice little catalogue now of about 80 or so videos on there, and he talks about stuff that his dad wrote and other things that he's found. So it's quite a nice little listen. You won't maybe not enjoy all of it, but you'll definitely enjoy some of it if you're a fan of these sorts of books. So do check out Pulp today, it's worth a watch. And that's The Son of Michael Avallone. Cool, that's the first wedge done, the first pile. The next Uncle book, I'm going to get a bit more polish now. So again, just delicately do it around the signature. Wouldn't it be good to just rock up at David McCallum's house one day with this lot and say, would you mind just co-signing some of these? I know he's getting on a bit now, but he is still alive. And up until just a few years ago, he was still working, wasn't he? In, what was it, CSI, was it? Or, I don't know, one of those programs. Tiny little dot on there just to move it straight in. A couple of little black marks there, but that's gone. I don't know if you saw those on the edge there, but just required a bit of absolute on the spot polish, but that's actually done the trick very nicely indeed. Cool. Move a bit further along on my cloth now. Just start that way and move to the left. marks on the back here, but they've come off all right. It's lovely. Of course, there was a Man from Uncle Digest magazine, wasn't there, which I've had a couple through my hands, but I didn't actually collect them. I think there's a fair few. I'm sure one of my viewers will let me know in the comments. But there was a Man from Uncle Digest. Just another sign of quite how popular it really was in its heyday. Let's group these all together. They do look very nice when they're nice copies as well, don't they? All the different colours. Nice little run. I'm going to be so careful with these signed ones at the moment. These are the 90s ones, which did have a bit of wear on, but I'm hoping will come up quite nicely. Lots of sort of spotting and dirt on the front there, which take a bit of tactical cleaning there, but yeah, they're coming off lovely. Last thing I saw Robert Vaughan in actually was The Magnificent Seven. I was rewatching that one. I'm doing a a Steve McQueen watch-a-thon as well at the moment. There's a great Steve McQueen podcast called Speeding Bullet, and they examine in utter minutiae everything that Steve McQueen ever appeared in. Some films getting multi-episode treatment, something like The Great Escape, for example. I think have 3 or 4 parts talking about different aspects of that film. And of course they spend quite a bit of time on the Magnificent Seven, which McQueen is in. But so is Robert Vaughn. This one's got no sticker on. No signature, rather. Get that dirt off the front cover there, which is done quite nicely. This one by Harry Whittington. He was quite a big name in the world of crime fiction. Great author. Some of his stuff is really terrific, what I've read of it. This one's got quite a bad little sticker mark at the top there. So I'm just being fairly delicate. I'm going to put a little bit more polish on, because it's really near the signature, so I need to be super careful. But it's coming off. Yeah, there was a price underneath. My worry is if I go too heavy, it is literally gonna pull a bit of the cover off, so I'm just gonna leave that for now. It might be one that I come back to in the future. to be a candidate for the funniest cover there with Robert Vaughan. What is he saying there? I don't know. Stack number 2. Last little stack now. But once again, I think you'll agree it's been a pretty fun selection of books today. Definitely some nice cool items which I've enjoyed looking at again, that's for certain. I do love a good movie tie-in. No two ways about it. Some of these are really improved by going through this process today. I'm really pleased with some of these. They've come right up beautiful because they've never been done before. They've really benefited from it. This is another one. Had like a sticker on the front, which I've just zapped. Apologies if the odd book falls out of shot. It's not on purpose. So I will be doing next week. I shall be doing part 3 of these because I've been loving it so much, and I reckon there's going to be at least another one part, at least possibly 2. We'll see how we get on. And if you have enjoyed it, obviously I urge you to hit the like button, and if you've not already, do please subscribe. It'd be nice to think in a couple of months we could get to 1,000 subscribers. This last video, the first part, has done very well, so I'm very pleased. Had like almost 1,000 views at the time I'm recording this, which is excellent. That's all I can hope for. 1,000 views in a week is excellent, really, so I can't complain of that. Well, my cloth is getting absolutely hammered today, so So this one's going to be going in the wash tonight. I cannot stand another session. Usually a cloth will be good for like two or three cleaning sessions, but this one has had it. It's now the time has come to pop it in the wash. But that's okay. It's got a little bit of the spine torn. Not a great copy, but just a touch under there. I'm going to put a little bit of glue under that. Just while we're here. Didn't spot it first time around, but it's not a top-notch copy or anything, so it's not going to matter too much. But I just put a little slither of glue in there. Since we're here, it's two-plied, so I put the first layer in initially. And then I put another layer in between the two bits of ply. There we are, like so. So both bits are glued, and then just tap it down like that. So at least it's not going to tear right off, which is the risk. There we are. Just better than it falling to bits on me. Something like this, which was bought brand new, all this has got is just a little bit of aging, so running the slightly damp cloth over it brings it up virtually brand new again, you know, which is how we like them. Forget where I got this one now, the US Moon 02. Must have been years ago, I think. Last little snack. Boy, oh boy, we've certainly taken some muck off these today, haven't we? Looking at the duster here, it's just incredible. last few now. So yeah, if you have enjoyed today's video, which I hope you have, please join me again next week when we'll be doing part 3 of the movie and TV tie-ins. Made quite a difference to the back cover in that one. But yeah, thank you very much for watching today. I've certainly enjoyed it, and I hope you have as well. And I'm going to be back next week with another video for your enjoyment. There we are. Last one. So yes, I shall see you again in a week's time.